Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show again. It is SonRise. Thank you for joining us. As you all know, my name is BB Johnson, and here with me again is somebody that we all know. I call him Prof. So, Prof, good morning to you.
Good morning, BB. Thank you very much for such a warm welcome, and welcome to everyone that is joining us this morning, watching from the comfort of their homes and perhaps even their beds. It's SonRise. Remember, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his wings. And you know, there's another place in the Bible that says, from the rising of the sun to its going down, the Lord's name is to be praised. That's what we're here to do this morning. Have some fun, get to know each other better, and you know what? Praise the Lord as well. Bibi.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Thank you so much, Prof. Guys, I have to say to you, first of all, it was Prof's birthday on Tuesday last week. So please help me to love on him and show him how much we appreciate him. Prof, happy belated birthday to you. I hope you had a good day on your birthday. Please, it was last week Tuesday, and I'm sure you had so many calls, so many text messages and all, but on the show, just wanted to give you a shout out to say we love and appreciate you. Prof, how did you enjoy your birthday? Did you do anything nice?
I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much, Bibi. Thank you for the good wishes. And yes, you're right. I got so many calls and text messages, and very much appreciated and felt loved. Of course, I spent the time with my family, as you would expect. There wasn't much of going anywhere because we're in lockdown, but we did have a good time. And of course, you know, that day was the day before we started our push, before the fasting started. So there was a bit of let's get things out of the way as much as we can, you know, the cakes and food and so forth. But you know what? It was a great time, a great week. Of course, there was work to do as well, but you know, happy to be here, happy for such a time as this, and happy for, you know, all the love and all the warmth and embrace that I felt from people. So yeah, thanks again.
Fantastic. Well, push or no push, Prof, you haven't escaped from my cake. So I'm still waiting for that cake, and it has to come right to my house this week.
No cakes.
Yes, I mean, we are pushing at the moment, but still, we at least we'll break the fast at 6 p.m. and we can have cake. So please, I'm waiting for my cake. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, thank you all so very much for those who joined last week. I don't know if any of you tried to go on the forum. Oh my goodness, we had some conversation on the forum last week, and it was fantastic. And we had a couple of questions come in on the vaccine, vaccine topic that we discussed last week, and we thought, okay, do you know what, it would be good to kind of continue that conversation and answer the questions. I did say last week that we have our own in-house prof, so we don't need to go externally asking for all of these things. So please, thank you. First of all, thank you to those who sent in their questions. Now we will try to address them. And for all who are yet to send in their questions, if you have any questions, please do send them to us on the forum. So, Prof, I'm sure you saw on the forum as well that we had a couple of questions coming on vaccine. And also there has been an update on the vaccine this week as well. But just before we go into the update, let's just take the questions. I think we've got just a couple that we can take at this time. And I'll read one of it to you, and please try and see if you can give us some sort of answer to it. So the first question came in, and it was from one of our sisters. And she said that the thing about Black people being the most susceptible to this COVID-19 thing, is this true? Why is this so? What exactly in our DNA make them susceptible? I mean, yeah. So because we're Black people, they say that it's something for us. So yeah, Prof.
Yes. So the question is in three parts, isn't it? It says, is it true because of it, and what is it in our DNA that makes us susceptible? Well, the first answer to your question is no, right? And yes, depending on what you mean. And I would explain a little bit more. So when I say no, I mean that it is not true that Black people or people of African descent, as I prefer to say, are more susceptible to COVID-19. That's not actually true. It's not rooted in any scientific fact or evidence. But then I say, and yes, but what I mean is, I guess what is perhaps a more accurate way of presenting that information is to say that those who are of minority ethnic backgrounds, particularly in this part of the world, are seen to have disproportionately higher numbers of infections and hospitalizations and even deaths, okay, compared to the others. And I'll explain why I phrased it differently, because those are two different things. If you phrase it the first way, which is to say that people of African descent are more susceptible, then yes, your final question will become, what then is the cause of it, and where is the genetic cause of it? And that's why I said the answer is just simply not true. And I'll explain a little bit more as well, that this issue of race, as is defined as in the context of skin color, is nothing but a construct, okay? There is nothing that actually supports or in fact even lends any sort of weight to the idea that people are different because of the way their skin colors look. Okay, the genetic differences between the different, if you like, ethnicities or different races, if you like, is actually less than the differences you would find between people on the same ethnicity. That's how, so from a scientific basis or from a genetic basis, it's simply not true. There is nothing like race in that way. This idea of race came from, some kind of dubious research and propositioning that people did early on in the evolution of science. So I'm just making that point so that people understand it very clearly. So if anybody is trying to present to you some sort of increased susceptibility to a viral disease and say it's linked to race, that's completely false. Okay, so I would reject that outright. Okay, that's on the one hand. So this idea of nature versus nurture, there's nothing as far as nature is concerned. And I'll put it to you as well and say, if that were the case, then what you would see would be a massive explosion of COVID-19 in sub-Saharan Africa, right? Because
exactly. Absolutely.
And that's simply the case, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. So the other thing I just wanted to mention there was that now when you talk about what we actually see, what we see is that those who are of minority ethnic backgrounds, and this applies really everywhere, are the ones who, unfortunately, due to socio-economic and cultural conditions, are going to be more exposed, okay, because they tend to be more deeply entrenched in poverty, okay, and they are perhaps doing the kinds of work that expose them more, okay, and when they're exposed, they are less quick, I guess, to seek help, and when they seek help, that help may not be as available to them as it is to others. So when you put all of that together, then what you're seeing is actually not the genetic marker or a genetic indicator. What you're seeing is a socio-economic indicator, right? And that would happen in any place you go. So think about what I said. Nothing in your composition as somebody from African descent makes you more susceptible. That is simply not true. But what could make a person more susceptible is poverty, okay, and to some degree, not having access to the right facilities.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Prof, honestly, thank you for that. This is so amazing, because I remember when this whole pandemic started in the first place, even myself, I remember I traveled in February and in my head, I was thinking, oh, anyway, they said this is not affecting Black people. So yeah, we don't need to worry about it. So, and to now see
how we started there.
Exactly. To now see that people are now actually thinking that, well, in the first place, it didn't affect Black people. And now it is actually Black people who are more susceptible to it. It's just not. So yes, thank you so much for providing that clarification. The second question, very quickly, is will vaccination be made compulsory? So this person would like to know whether it will be made compulsory or not.
So when you ask the question, will it be made compulsory? Obviously, I can't tell you whether it will be made compulsory or not. I'm not a Prime Minister and I'm not an MP, but I think I understand what the question is. Background of the question, right? I guess what underlies that question is some concern that people would be forced, as it were, to take a vaccine against their will. I think that's what the person is getting at.
Okay.
What I say is, obviously, caveat emptor, I do not have a legal qualification. So what I'm going to give you is not legal advice. What I will give you my own informed opinion, okay, based on research and based on, again, just the opinions of those who are legally qualified. So the law as it stands does not allow for anybody to be forced to receive the vaccine. Okay. So yes, so the Public Health Control Act of 1984 makes that very clear. So look at Section 45E, right? Section 45. It makes it very clear that nobody is going to be coerced or forced to undergo an intervention, okay, or undergo medical treatment, okay, medical intervention, and that includes taking a vaccine or indeed even any sort of medical treatment. Right, it can be recommended, but you can't be made to do it. Now, in some places, I've seen people talk about this Coronavirus Act of April 2020 and saying that actually allows the government to force you to do so. Again, I haven't seen anything that indicates this is the case. Okay, what that act has done is to allow the government to do the things we see the government doing, which is mandate people to quarantine and fine them if they don't, mandate people to provide certain information as to where they've been and things like that, and ask people to put on masks. In other words, it allowed the government to do the things that they were able to do in order to try to get the virus or the epidemic under control. However, that act is within the context, okay, and it sits within the restrictions of that Public Health Act I talked about. So even if there was anything in that act that suggested that people could be forced to take a vaccine, in as much as the Public Health Act of 1984 does not allow for that, then it would not be legally enforceable. Okay, so the long and short of this is, according to our current laws, that is not the case, right? Anybody that tells you that that's the case, I think that at the very least you need to put the burden of proof on the person and ask them to explain and show to you very clearly how that is the case, rather than just showing you what the opinion is and fear mongering. Okay, and that's a different conversation. I'm not saying taking the vaccine is a negative thing, but if you have decided it's a negative thing, then fear mongering, and I think frankly, I think it's a bit irresponsible for people to be spreading news of things like this when it's just their view, right? So that's what I would say with regard to that. So just bear in mind, for this sort of thing to happen, we're going to have a clear act of parliament. Okay, we'll have MPs, the law will have to be passed, MPs will have to sign off the law, and then we will know that we don't have that right now. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof, for saying that. I think it's just us even being very smart with all of this information that we have. Even for any lockdown measures they want to put in place now, it has to be voted upon in the parliament. So you can't just wake up one morning and say that you're going to legalize this and everyone has to take the vaccine. And this takes me straight to the last question for today because of our time. And this was one I personally actually saw on a WhatsApp. It was one of those WhatsApp forwarded messages. And it was actually a flyer designed, and it says how to legally decline a vaccine. And so there were a couple of questions there that they asked and say, if you ask the doctor that, I'll just read one of them so that you can have a feel of what I'm saying. It says, step 1, do not refuse a vaccine, otherwise you'll be considered be whatever it is that they put here. Instead, you can politely decline the service by doing the following. Ask the doctor, does the vaccine have MRCS? And if the answer is a yes, you can just decline it. And so for me, I was thinking, okay, if I took this upon myself, I read it and I'm thinking, okay, I asked the doctor and he says, yeah, it contains MRC. Do I know what MRC whatever is? And is this even a good enough information for me to help me make the right decision? So this is a question I have for you, Prof. In terms of these messages that we receive on WhatsApp, and I say WhatsApp especially because I have seen WhatsApp being used in the last couple of years in a way that no one could ever imagine. How do we treat or how do we respond to these messages when we get them on WhatsApp instead of just forwarding them on?
Yes, thanks very much, baby. So I think your question is a very fundamental one, particularly for the times in which we live. And I think what I would say is this, and this applies to any message you get. The first, you need to be able to subject that message to what I call tests for truth, right? So when you get a message, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, who sent this message to me? Okay, that's number one, right? And when I say who sent it to you, I mean, who is this message attributable to? Too often you see people sending a message and saying forwarded as received. What does that mean? Right? Anybody can make up anything and say forwarded as received. So if your message is not attributable to a source that I can independently verify, then I'm going to reject it outright. Okay? Because what you're saying to me, if it's valid and if it is true, then you ought to be able to point to me where it is. I mean, it's the same thing we do in church, right? When somebody says something and you say, show me where it is in the scriptures.
In the scriptures, yes.
You're looking for an attributable source that you can independently verify. Otherwise, anybody could as well make up anything. Okay. And then the second thing you ask yourself is, okay, maybe it's not enough to independently verify because somebody can point you to a blog. But you know, the next question you have to ask yourself is, are there multiple sources of information that point to the same news? Okay. Yeah. Because all too often you find that somebody has just created something in their bedroom and just published it. The fact that it's on the internet doesn't make it true. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. So the one thing you ask yourself is, okay, I see this news somewhere. Do I see it elsewhere? Do I see it elsewhere? Do I see it elsewhere? That's number two. But even that is not enough, right? Because what you might find out is that sometimes somebody posts a false bit of news, and then many other sources just go and quote that news. So when you look at it, you say, oh, all of these different sources have quoted. But if it's a reputable source, they would usually credit where they got it from. And when you look at it, they find out they are all crediting the one source. So they are not independent sources. They're just parroting the same thing. Yeah. So the third thing you need to look at is, do I have multiple different sources saying the same thing? And are these sources reputable?
Yeah.
Okay? So these are three different ways. And I think when you start to check those three sources, most of the information you get on WhatsApp, they fail at the first hurdle because they don't even credit. They don't tell you where they got. They just say, for, you know, my uncle's auntie who is this and that, just means nothing. Yeah. If the person cannot signpost where they got that information from, then don't rely on it. Okay, do your own research, and if you have any questions, look for a professional. Right? Last time you were asking me how long it took to do these things. Well, I got my PhD about 10 years ago now. Okay, in structural and molecular biology. Published a number of scientific articles. If you Google them, you will see them. Some of them won awards. Things like that are not things that you get by just doing a couple of minutes research. Okay, people spend a lot of time researching these things, understanding what these things are, and they can talk about them. And you know what? We're honest enough to also say, we're not quite sure. I'm going to check this and get back to you. So just check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. The final point I want to make maybe is this. You see that question that says how to legally decline a vaccine. The point is completely moot because by law, you are not obliged to take a vaccine. So you are creating a fear mongering based on something that is not even true, right? Yeah. You see what I mean? So stuff like that is rather unfortunate, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. So guys, you've heard it all now. Just a quick recap. So the Black people are not susceptible to the virus. So don't let anyone deceive you on that. Also, whether vaccination will be made compulsory or not, that isn't in the case at the moment. It's not just something they can wake up overnight and say, yes, we've legalized this. If you don't accept the vaccine, then you can't travel, you can't buy, you can't sell, you can't do all of that. No, that isn't the case. And also check the sources of the information that you get. Just check. Find out. I have a rule of thumb. If anything comes to me, I look for people that I know around me that are in that industry, that I can trust their source, that they can trust the information they provide. And if they are not sure about it, then I just leave it. I mean, you don't want to there isn't any trophy to be collected for being the first person to share the news. So let's put it that way, okay? So thank you all very much. Prof, there is very quickly, I think we've got just a few minutes left. For I think last week there was an update on the vaccine about the 90% or 95%. Can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, actually, so this is a different vaccine. So that's a very good point you make, actually, baby. So at some point, there were quite a few vaccines in the running. So that's the good news. It's like the race to space, to the moon.
Oh, wow. So it's not just one.
It's not just one. There are quite a few of them. Many of them are still in fact, I tell you, even many years after this, you will still see vaccines coming out. So this was another vaccine by a company in the US called Moderna Therapeutics. The one from here was from Pfizer in partnership with BioNTech, which was a company based in somewhere in Europe. Okay, so the ways the vaccines work are actually quite similar. They are based on the RNA, or RNA, messenger RNA, and kind of sensitizing the body to the virus so that when the body encounters the virus, it's already prepared. So this one is quoting slightly higher efficacy than the one from Oxford. So this was saying 94.5%, the other one above 90%. What this is saying is that in at least 9 out of 10 cases of people who take this vaccine, it prevents infection with COVID-19. So bear in mind, vaccines are not 100% efficacious, okay?
Yeah.
But it's that when people take the vaccination, it reduces the transmission significantly. And that's always the first place in fighting an infectious disease. Because if you reduce the transmission, fewer people can catch it. When fewer people can catch it, then they transmit it to fewer people. And eventually gets to a point where the disease just dies off because it's just not going to enough people, okay? So I hope that helps.
Oh, yeah, that really helps. Thank you very much. Because I was thinking, oh, okay, there is 90%, 95%. That's some sort of confusion. So now we know there are so many different vaccines being brought out, and we might even see a lot more come out later on. So, Prof, thank you so very much. Guys, I hope you have learned something from this episode today. I have learned a lot. I mean, I feel like I'm actually a pro in vaccine production and all of that. Yes. So I might be working with Prof, but yeah, so thank you for joining us. And now we move on to our next segment of the show. I'm sure you're all waiting for this and you can't wait to join us. In a few seconds, we'll have our guest with us who we're going to be spotlighting today. Thank you, guys. Hi, Turks. Good morning.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. So good to have you as our guest. So, guys, Turks is being spotlighted this morning. So he has come in for our spotlight section of the program, and we would like to see how many questions you'll be able to answer within 30 seconds. I think I'm still leading, but anyway, I'm hoping that you're able to answer more than 7 questions in 30 seconds, but not necessarily, because I want to win. All right, thank you so much for coming. It's so nice to see you. Prof, it's over to you now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us today, Tokes, and to everyone else that's watching us. It's that time again on this show, the Spotlight Minute. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, as ready as I could be. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Bibi is going to be timing us, and she will let us know when the time is up. But I will let you know when to start. Okay? Are we good to go, Bibi? Are we ready?
And your time, your 30 seconds starts now.
Tokes, what's your middle name?
My middle name is Tokunbo.
House number?
239.
In what city do you live?
Stevenage.
In which city were you born?
Lagos.
When did you start university?
1999.
Where did you meet your wife?
2010.
How many children do you have?
2.
How many daughters?
Time up. Well done. Oh my goodness. You got 7.
Yeah.
7. Wow.
7. Tokes, well done. So you're tied for the top spot.
Wow. Do you know, honestly, Tokes, so we are both on the same line now. Prof, you have to do better next time. So yes, so 7 questions under 30 seconds. That is fantastic. I think I set the right precedent. So yeah, I wouldn't even expect less. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've had fun.
So that was a great time with Tokes there, Bibi, wasn't it?
It was such a great time. It was good to see Tokes as well. So yeah.
But now we've got something at hand, haven't we? So we've got the service coming up. Last week we talked about this month we've been talking about walking in freedom, or true freedom. And last week Pastor Me talked about this topic. He said walk free. I thought it was a very apt title. And you know what? Like I mentioned earlier when we were talking, I think for us as Christians, often we hear people talking about fasting, but of course, when we say that, we mean something different. And for us, fasting is not just an exercise, if you like, in self-flagellation. It's a time to actually press into the presence of God. It's a time to look forward and access the divine mindset and the divine will concerning us. And I'll say on that note, obviously we spent some time here this morning talking and having fun, but there's a main reason we're here today. We want to walk free. We want to experience true freedom. And we're going to do that because the service is coming up right after this. Time again in the presence of God, live with Pastor Timmy. See you on the other side. Thanks for your time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.